Have you ever felt like the harder you push, the more resistance you feel? Like you're just spinning your wheels? It's this weird frustration in our always-on hustle and grind world. But what if the secret to actually getting more done wasn't about more effort, but about a smarter, more natural way of doing things? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dive into today. This incredible idea of effortless action.
You see this word effortless everywhere, right? Take this recent ad from Volkswagen for their Tiguan SUV. Driving it, parking it, it's all simply effortless. Sounds great. It promises this smooth, totally easy experience for whoever's behind the wheel.
But, hang on a minute. Is it really effortless? I mean, truly? Or are we maybe just looking at one tiny little piece of a much, much bigger picture? And that question right there gets to the heart of a huge misunderstanding in our modern world.
So here's our game plan. We'll start with what I'm calling the effort paradox. Then we'll journey back in time to explore an ancient solution called Wu Wei. We'll see how it's about active surrender, not just being lazy, and then look at some amazing real-world examples. Finally, we'll tackle why we're so caught in this competition trap and, most importantly, how we can start to find our own flow.
All right, first up, the effort paradox. We really need to unpack why our whole modern idea of what's easy is not just wrong, but actually kind of dangerous. Okay, let's go back to that Volkswagen. From the driver's point of view, what we could call self-effort, yeah, sure, parking the car feels easy. But that is just the tip of the iceberg. What about the total effort? Think about it. The design, the factories, digging the metal out of the ground, the pollution, the roads we have to build, even the healthcare costs from us all sitting in cars more. The driver's effortless moment is built on a literal mountain of hidden effort from the entire system. And this, right here, is the core of the problem. Our view of effort has become totally self-centered. We only see our little piece of the puzzle. This super narrow focus on my own personal ease is a root cause of why our systems are so unsustainable, for us and for the planet. We're completely ignoring the massive total effort bill that's coming due. So, if our modern approach is kind of broken, where do we look for a better way? Well, let's turn to an ancient idea that offers this incredibly powerful alternative. It's a Taoist concept called Wu Wei. Now, Wu Wei often gets translated as non-doing, but honestly, that's a bit misleading. It doesn't mean being lazy or passive at all. A much better way to think about it is effortless action. It's really a kind of intelligence. It's about understanding how things work so deeply that you can achieve what you want with the least possible resistance. You're working with the grain of the universe, not fighting against it.
Lao Tzu, the sage who basically founded Taoism, had this perfect metaphor to explain it. Just think about water. It seems soft, right? It yields, it flows around any obstacle you put in its way. But over time, that same soft flowing water can carve a canyon through solid rock. That is the power of Wu Wei. It's not about brute force. It's about smart, persistent, flowing action.
Okay, it's so important that we clear this up right now because it's the biggest misconception people have. When they hear non-doing or go with the flow, they think it just means giving up and letting life happen to you. But that could not be further from the truth. The key idea here is active surrender. It's not passive. It's a conscious, deliberate choice to harmonize with the way things are. In the Bhagavad Gita, for instance, the warrior Arjuna is called to fight. His surrender to a higher will isn't about dropping his weapons. It's an active calling that requires him to pick up his bow and act, you see? Sometimes flowing with the current means gracefully accepting it, and sometimes it means skillfully steering your boat within it.
And what's so cool is that this isn't just some Eastern philosophy. The ancient Greek and Roman Stoics had a really similar and incredibly practical tool for this. They called it the dichotomy of control.
The Stoics basically said, look, the world is divided into two buckets, things you control and things you don't. What's in your control? Your thoughts, your judgments, and your actions. That's it. What's not in your control? Pretty much everything else. Your reputation, what other people do, the past, the future. So effortless action, in the Stoic sense, is about pouring 100% of your energy into that first bucket and learning to let go of the second. Wasting your energy trying to control things you can't is the very definition of useless, frustrating effort. Okay, so this philosophy all sounds pretty great, right? But what does it actually look like in the real world? Well, let's check out how this plays out everywhere, from massive ecosystems all the way down to the wiring inside our own brains.
So here's a perfect example: flood control. The hard path is to declare war on the river. We build massive concrete walls, we straighten its channels. This takes a ton of energy, and as the National Trust in the UK points out, it often just shoves a bigger, angrier flood problem further downstream. But the soft path, the wu-wei approach, is to work with the river. The strategy is beautifully simple. Just make space for water.
And this isn't some vague, feel-good idea. It involves real, concrete steps. You restore wetlands, which act like natural sponges. You plant forests to soak up rainwater. You use smart, soft engineering to help the river find its natural, curvy path again. Instead of creating new problems, this approach gives you tons of benefits, like cleaner water and more wildlife. It's working smarter, not harder. And we can apply this exact same logic to our own minds. As some great articles in Psychology Today point out, a lot of our anxiety comes from trying to control a future that we can't. The wu-wei or stoic approach, stop worrying and focus on what you can control, your preparation. A lot of depression is tied to reliving a past you can't change. The solution? Focus on your actions right here, in the present. And anger? It almost always flares up when we try to control other people. The effortless path is to focus only on controlling your own response.
So this brings us right back to where we started. If this effortless action is so much more effective and so much smarter, why are we so addicted to the hard path? Why is our culture totally obsessed with the kind of effort that just leads to burnout and feeling unfulfilled?
Well, here's a pretty sharp diagnosis from the source material we've been looking at. In our consumer-driven world, our sense of who we are has gotten tangled up with what we own. Our identity has become more about what we have than who we are.
And you can see how this creates a vicious cycle. We live in this culture of hyper-individualism, where there's this constant pressure to prove you're better than the next person. Our schools often train us to compete for the best grades instead of caring for the community. And all of this drives us to spend enormous amounts of energy just keeping score, buying things to signal our status, instead of doing things that actually matter. And this brings us back to Lao Tzu's beautiful image. He says, true goodness is like water. It benefits everything, it nourishes everything, but it doesn't compete with anything. It just flows where it needs to go. It is the absolute opposite of our modern competitive mindset. So, how do we actually break free from this competition trap? How do we start using this ancient wisdom in our modern lives? Well, the good news is this isn't just some forgotten philosophy. It is alive and well right now. Just look at movements like permaculture. It's all about designing our gardens, our farms, even our communities based on the super efficient, no-waste principles of a natural forest. Or think about the Transition Towns movement, where people work together, cooperatively, to solve local problems instead of just competing as individuals. These are literally real-world examples of wu-wei in action today. And that really brings us to the final and most important point. This isn't just about big ideas or ecological projects. This is about your life, your job, your relationships, your passions. So I want to leave you with this one question to really think about. Where in your life are you trying to force things? Where are you fighting the current? And where, just maybe, could you conquer a little bit less and flow a whole lot more?